Okay, so tonight I want to go over or go through a walkthrough example model of the final assignment, an example of. So the final assignment is going to be making a plush toy using the form tools and then whatever tools you prefer to create details. Now I'm going to go through tonight a basic rubber ducky. We're going to go through some of the modeling detail or the modeling shapes, examples, options, as well as a few of the details. Next time, we're going to go into more detail on how to make more details. So, some advanced techniques. So, all right, first thing, as always, make sure to save. So, example, duck, fine. Damn brain. Now, if you, like I said, this does not have to be original content. This isn't original content, really. This does not have to be something of your own creation. You can copy a known product, like I said, think like plush toys, stuffed animals, pool toys, inflatable stuffs, Pokemon, that sort of thing. We're looking for something that is much more rounded in shape, softer in features. If you want to make stuff more pointed, you certainly can. We'll go over that. But as an example, I'm going to use a rubber ducky. So go from computer, desktop, all my oddball examples here. And let's see here. We'll use the right canvas, leave that smack in the middle. Great. Now, as I said, there's no real solid size on this, but as a general reference, let's go ahead and aim for something like 120 millimeters large in, cubic. There we go. So with this canvas, let's go ahead and at least calibrate this. So right click on the image on the hierarchy tree, go to calibrate, pick 2 points in a somewhat linear fashion. So from the front to the butt, it's only 12 millimeters. That should be, well, slightly scaled up. So we'll say 120. Oh my God, it's giant. Resize. There we go. So at least I have a basic starting point. Now, you can certainly add additional canvases since we're working in 3-dimension. If you want something from the front view, from the top view, I'm sure you can find images of that. Or if you are copying something that already exists, take your own photos. But for this case, we're just going to use this as a reference and kind of freeform model it, because this can certainly be your own take on an example. You want to make some, I'm pulling a complete blank on any other example of like a Pokemon or something, whatever. You can certainly make it your own version. All right, so we've got the canvas. Let's start here. So canvas. There we are. Start with your forms. Now, how you go about this is going to be totally up to you, because this is very sculptural. You can kind of start wherever you want. Now, if you're starting from a more rounded shape, you should pick a more rounded form, like a sphere or quad ball. If you are starting with something like, I don't know, you're making like some squeezable frog, probably go with something more like a box, since it's kind of sort of box-like in a very rough estimate way. It's going to be however you choose. So with this, I'm going to start with a sphere for the body, and my plan is I'm going to add a second sphere for the head, bridge them together. So start with a sphere, and since I'm working smack in the middle, I can start right there. And let's go ahead and give myself an estimate of how big should this go. Now, since we're going to be working with this and really pushing and pulling parts and such, you don't want to have this too complex. So first off, I'm going to drop the face amounts down to 6. 4 is a little bit too short or too few. And with this, because I'm going to be applying symmetry, I would like to make sure that this is symmetrical left to right. Now, I've got a problem there, and I'll probably have to rotate this, because if I go to add symmetry, mirror, I don't really have a way to do that because of how this is aligned. Now I can rotate this and then put it in alignment. So I'm going to leave the symmetry off for now, and I'll add it later. So first, let's just go ahead and get this up to a very rough estimate of how big it should be. So this is one of the cases where it's not ideal to have made this right in the center. I can move it around. 60 millimeters seems reasonable-ish. Okay. So first things first, let's get this into position. Select the whole sphere, use the move tool. For one, I want to move it kind of more of actually in place of the body. Great. Now, like I said, I want this aligned to where my symmetry can be applied. Now, I can just rotate this just a few degrees and it'll snap 30 degrees. Or if it made more sense to you, since it was aligned as such, and at 90 degrees it lines up, move it to 90. That's fine. Yeah, I just want the my symmetry to align with the axis. Great. Now I can go in and apply symmetry across the faces. Now remember how to apply symmetry after the fact. You select one face on one side of where you want it and another face on the other. Now this is just basic symmetry. Remember, you can add circular symmetry. Duplicate is for actually making mirrored copies. Circular duplicates is for making multiple multiple copies of the same. And then you could, of course, clear symmetry, or if you do not want it over the entirety of it, you can isolate symmetry. But in this case, I just want basic mirrored symmetry across the major axis. Great. Symmetry. Adding extra letters. Great. Okay, now just start playing. I have my symmetry applied. You're going to go to edit form, and this is where you're going to start just kind of moving stuff around. Now, is there a best way to do this? No. Are there better ways? Of course. But for the most part, I'm just going to kind of estimate, especially since I'm only working off of a single image. It would be beneficial to have grabbed a front view and at least a front view and possibly a top-down view. But I don't have that, so you get the idea of what a rubber duck looks like. So I'm going to use, for now, faces. Now, remember, you have your soft modifications, but for here, I want like the whole front. So I'm going to select all of those, use my arrow key, and drag that forward. Get that close to the front. We'll get a bit closer. Good. Now, the back, select all of those faces. Let's drag that out. Now, this is what I was talking about as far as keep this simple for the time being, and you can always subdivide or add edges or anything like that later. When you keep it simple, you could move a lot more shapes, a lot more faces, a lot more vertices, a lot more edges, however you want to work, but you can make much more general gestures, and then you can add detail by subdividing or adding edges or anything like that later. Makes it a lot easier to work this way. All right, great. So that's really just kind of the very basics there. So now let's switch to select all, and I think I'm going to select from the top down, and I want to just kind of drag that bottom down a bit further. Now you got two options here. I am going to flatten this out later, or you could do it now by simply deleting all of those faces. See how it flattened it all out? And then I could go to utility, not utility, sorry, fill hole, select that boundary, and select the one that makes the most sense, collapse maybe. But this would be the time to select keep creases. That'll keep that bottom flat. So if that's the way you want to go with it, great. I want to keep this rounded for now, so I'm going to Control Z back to where before I chopped it up. Oops, I went too far. And then I will address that later. But for now, let's see. All right, I can start moving that body around, but I think I'd like to make it a little bit wider first. So let's go ahead and go back to edit form, select some faces. Yeah, we'll just select faces. Now for here, I think I would like to add soft modification. Let's turn that on. My working method is, let's try bulge. We're going to leave the weight and distance Yeah, let's go with face count. That works a little better. Drag that out, and we're just widening that duck body. Great. Yeah, I just wanted to give it a little bit more width. Cool. Okay. All right. Deselect that. I like where that is. Now let's start playing with how to make that tail and such. Now, you can work with faces, but I'm going to warn you here. One of the issues is if you are working right on the symmetry plane. Now, I'm just going to use a free transform by grabbing right here. That's going to move some stuff around, but also because I have soft modification on, look how much it's affecting everything else. Don't forget to turn off soft modification. Let's Control Z that, switch off soft. Now, if I drag this around, it's going to move stuff around, but it moves everything. So I want to use the free extrude, which is press and hold Alt and drag outward. But I just gave it a double butt. This is the warning. When you're working right on the symmetry plane, you have to also grab the adjoining or the shared edge. If you don't, it extrudes into these doubles. So if I had grabbed over here and say extrude it outward, press and hold Alt, drag outward, see, it doesn't matter because it's not on that shared edge. So select there, also grab the shared, or sorry, also grab the shared edge. Now, when I use the freeform extrude, press and hold Alt, drag outward. Oh, did it again. What the hell? Oh, right. I didn't finish selecting. You can't just rely on the mirror. You have to select all of it. Select the edge, or sorry, the face, the shared edge, and the other edge. I keep getting it backwards. Select both faces and the shared edge. Jeez. Now I can move outward. It extrudes it as one solid face. Now it's, or rather, it still has two faces, but it extrudes it as a shared element. All right. Now I can scale this back. Ooh, the other way. Make that a little bit shorter. Make that a little bit shorter. Maybe I rotate it a little bit. Oops, wrong rotation. Oh, that was the right one. Just doing some weird stuff. So get that ducktail getting a little bit more of where I want it to be. Maybe I should have just scaled it up entirely. That's scaling in some weird ways. Not quite what I want. I think I need to grab all of those too. And just select all of them. There we go. And free transform over. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Great. So again, this can be very close to what you're going for. You're not making it, I'm not expecting like photorealistic accuracy. All right. So that was using some freeform extrude, rotating, scaling, that sort of thing. But looking at the edge, I want to add a little duck butt. So best way to do that is divide this face. One of the default buttons that are already up here, add edge. Doesn't matter which one, top or bottom. Remember, it adds anywhere between the two faces or between the two edges on that face from 0 to 1. 1 being closest to the selected edge, 0 being closest to the other edge. 0.5 is smack in the middle. You can add more by doing both, and that'll put it on either one, but I don't want that. So just single right there. And because it's mirrored, it'll add one on both sides. Whoop, there we go. Now I have a little bit more to work with. So once again, edit form. Let's select the edge. Again, I'm not extruding, I'm just dragging outward. There we go. Now here, I can drag inward, but I'm not getting, it's moving the whole thing. I don't have soft modification on. So what I can do to fix that is this is where I can go add a crease. This does exactly what it sounds like. It makes that more of a sharp curve. Now you can't really see it very well because there's not much there, but when I go to edit form, select that again, because I'm just selecting that edge. Now when I drag inward, you can see it develop a little bit more. It's a little bit sharper. Sorry, I went to right and it went all over the place. There you go. See, it's a little bit sharper there. Great. So that's the kind of thing that you can do with, if you want a sharp edge, you go to crease. If you want to remove that, you go to uncrease. Pretty straightforward. Or just if it was something you just did, Control Z it. Same deal. All right. So up here, it's got this weird little kick in. Let's continue to modify that. Again, I'm not making an extrusion just yet. I'm just dragging some stuff around. You can do quite a lot, surprising, with rotate. But now I'm getting this weird like divot in here. All right. Let's select by just that vertice. And let's drag that out a little bit. There we go. I got that weird like, well, duck butt thing going, only it's on the top of the tail. So those kind of things. So getting a pretty rough idea, but we're starting to add some features. Now let's look from the top. It's kind of like a bar of soap thing going. I'd like to shrink this by edge. So remember, you can select each individual edge if you like, or if you double click the edge, it will select everything in that loop. I don't know if I want everything in the loop. We'll see. So I drag inward, starts to shrink right there. Excuse me. However, you could also use the scale tool and shrink that line entirely or grow it. Up to you. Two different ways. I think the scale kind of flattened out more than I would like. So yeah, let's just use the arrow. But I don't think I want all of those selected. So let me drag by there. Again, this is just going to be kind of like just exactly that, playing around. Just kind of seeing where I'm going with this. Okay. All right, so I'll leave there. That's a very simple shape. I think I would like that edge to be a little more creased. So I'm going to go to crease again. Let's use that line. Makes it much sharper. Cool. I just wanted a little bit sharper ducktail there. You can always play with that and such later. You can always cut into that or undo it, whatever you like. But that makes it a little more tail-like. All right. So you don't have to make everything out of one single body. If you want the challenge, more power to you. Let me save here. Body made. Now let's give it a head. So I'm going to select, instead of on the XY plane, I'm going to select the XZ plane so that I can add a sphere more or less in the center of the head. Now, the other thing about adding it that way, as you see, it aligned the alignment in a left-right position, which automatically kind of gives me a reference of, oh yeah, the eyes are going to be kind of somewhere there-ish. Granted, way out on the side and like that and that large, you're kind of getting into like Tim Burton nightmare fuel area. But hey, you make it however you want to. If you want to expand it even more, it doesn't matter if they overlap. That's perfectly fine. Because how I'm going to be bridging these two is I'm going to be deleting faces entirely and then using the bridge tool. So that's kind of giant. I'm going to shrink that down a bit and then I could tweak it from there. Yeah, that looks okay-ish. Now, because it's already aligned, I can add symmetry right from the get-go. And in this case, it's height, because the way it's aligned, it is the two poles are left and right across my y-axis here. So the two poles is how it's aligned. So I select height and it's right there. You can always apply symmetry later, doesn't matter. All right, same deal. Want to start cutting it up or start squishing it around? Edit form, let's squish it a little bit. Let's select by edges. Go to front, and I'm just going to select, no, I'm going to select that away. Hopefully that didn't select the other body. Great, it did not. Okay, I'm just going to squish it in a little bit so it's a little bit less intense. You can leave it out wider and kind of rounder if it's a little bit of a goofy fun doll thing. Great. Now, before I keep going, what I want to do is I want to split these faces up to create the bill. Now, you might want to decide to go ahead and, you can always add it straight out, start dragging it, but see how it's going to start kind of warping everything? I think I would prefer to add some edges there first. So leave it there. I'll go to add edge. That's selected, but I want edges on either side. So in this case, I will use both because I have symmetry applied. It's going to add edges to both of those faces, but for right there, that'll work. I don't think I want it at 0.5. Let's try more 0.25, closer to there. Yep, that works. Select OK. See how it started to subdivide that? Well, now I keep saying subdivide. That is a tool. You can, in fact, subdivide, and it will add faces or edges and divide that single face however you would like it by as many. But adding edges just kind of gives you a little bit more control. All right. Now I can drag some faces out. But instead of dragging, let's go ahead and extrude those. Make sure you select both. Or if it's something you can look straight across, use a from the right selection box. This is going to be a little bit more tricky. But if I select from the right, moving left across those two faces, I'm grabbing the two faces, also the other two faces on either side of the symmetry line, plus that shared edge. That's what I need. So now use the arrow, press and hold Alt, extrudes outward. Ducky bill. Now, is that where I would need it to be? Not quite, but we can warp this around. Sad. Not quite what I wanted. That's okay. I'm going to warp some other stuff around. This one, the model has an actual open mouth. That's cool. You could do something with that. I'm also going to show you how to cut some faces away to do some stuff like that. So from here, if I want to make this just this bill here and kind of crease it again, let's not cancel. Dang it. That's not what I meant to do. Meant to press. There we go. My bad. Drag that up. Press and hold Alt, drag outward. Oh, because it only has the edges selected. Come on, buddy, get it together. Oh. There we go. Make sure to hit OK, not cancel. Derp. All right. Deselect what I was working with. Let's crease the edge, and I just want to crease those. So yes, that's creased outward. That's okay. But now it has much more of a sharper bill. This can quickly become slightly nightmare fuel. But selecting those edges, now what I could do is something like a flat scale, drag those inward. Start to give it lips. Like I said, a lot of this is just going to be playing around and really starting to experiment with what you can do with this. Or you can make it much wider and you got much more of like a really unsettling duckbill. Again, honestly, just play around with this and you'll get some really fun stuff out of it. Now, one thing, if I want to make this internal here, honestly, I think the best option is going to be instead of yes, I'll leave the crease, but instead of trying to shrink that, what I should do is I'll leave that selection, go to add some edges, and we'll get it close. Let's say 0.1. Make it real close to where I want it to be. Select OK. Great. I subdivided it even more. Now it's got like unsettling lips. Now, go back to edit form, select all of these. And what I'm going to do is I could scale this downward. It's just going to do some weird stuff. But let's see if I can extrude it inward. All right, that's got some really kind of creepy lips going now. But you see where I'm going. You can extrude internally as well. So yeah, that is not a set. That is not a comforting looking duck head.
Like this happens every single time.
Yeah, you start experimenting and you just get like nightmare fuel. That's all right.
I remember last year you made something kind of similar.
Yeah, there was some unsettling stuff going on there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we can play around with this. So you see where I'm going with this. You can most certainly continue to expand any of this stuff. Now, I said that I didn't quite like how this was aligned. So let's just double click, select the whole thing, move. And I want to make sure to move right from the center. Let's see if it'll let me select that. No. Free move. Come on. This is always the trick with any of this stuff. I want to select just that vertice. Sometimes it really has trouble grabbing onto that. Making really small move. Oh, good Lord. Come on. Just let me select the center. There. That's all I needed. Just trying to select the dead center there. Yeah. Let me rotate it. Where's all my... The heck? my gimbal isn't appearing. That's really strange. Select the whole thing. Rotate. All right. I really would like it to be somewhere else, but that's okay. So I'm just wanting to rotate it down a little bit. That's all. And let's free transform that over that way. Great. Okay. That's kind of what I was just trying to do. All right. So now I want to try to get this duckbill up like that a little bit. So once again, back to freeform. Double click on there. Drag it upward. Rotate. A lot of this, again, is just going to be just trying to figure out how this will work for you to get to where you want it to be. So that's a little bit closer. Great. Keep playing with it. Now, let's try to get some eyeballs going. So what I want to do is I'm going to select all of these faces, and by be easier just to select by face. Great. Now, first, I would like to shrink this. So I'm going to use the center scale, shrink this down. Now let's move it up a little bit more. So again, we're kind of putting the duck eyes closer to where it has it on the model. Now I've got this like teardrop thing going here. That's okay for now. I can alter it later. Now I can press and hold Alt and extrude, but that's going to give me, oh God, give me soft slug eyes. Oh my God, that is not okay. But if you press and hold Alt and Control, it will. What the heck? Still doing the same. It might not be letting me because it's all very rounded. Control and Alt is a sharp crease. God, that is just not okay. All right. So let's tell you what, let's try it this way. I'm going to delete those faces. So let me say, okay, select those and delete them. Now, great. Now it's just got pin eyes. God, that's creepy. Select the edges. Usually the creased extrude only works on surfaces. So right now, because I deleted those faces, it's an open form. You can't really see it very well, but press and hold both Control and Alt. And when I extrude, it makes a sharp edge. So that's more what I was trying to do. But God, that is not what I wanted. Oh, that is just creepy. So let's cancel that. I may have made some poor choices here. Let me scale this back up. I think I'm just going to keep making it worse. Oh my God. Ultimately, I'm just trying to make this bump out here so I can press OK. OK. I've got this sharp edge now because what I wanted to be able to do is go to there, fill hole, star eyes. God, you can do collapse. I just wanted to be able to make like those little pillowy eyes. So that's all. So you could do it that way. That was a very unsettling and roundabout way of going about making that. You can most certainly also add additional forms. Like you could add additional spheres to make the eyes too. What I've done there is just made an extrusion that then I can close up. So if I wanted to create eyes by using spheres, select spheres. Again, right there, I'm going to create one about there, drag it outward. Oh, not going to be able to see the thing. Where is it? Oh, it's giant because it's not translucent. Let's say probably make it about 15 millimeters. Okay. Now the trick is seeing the thing. Where are you? There you are. So let's grab that body, move it outward so I can actually see what I'm doing. And what I'm doing here is I can now simply lodge an eyeball on the side of its head. But what I could do is how I was adding symmetry by internal. Oops, it looks like this little guy actually does already have symmetry. Let me remove that because I don't want that symmetry on that. So go to symmetry, clear symmetry on that body, select OK. Now the green line disappears. That's what I don't want, or that's what I want to do because I don't want symmetry on that. So what I can do now is I'm going to delete these faces. So I just have a hemisphere. There we are. But like I was saying, I do want, two eyes for it. So go to symmetry, and this is where I can do duplicate symmetry. So select there, select the construction plane, which I don't know why the origin plane disappeared. It's not letting me grab it. Hide the body. Come on, what's going on here? Oh, because I haven't selected mirror plane. There we are. And select the body. I just realized I didn't have it selected. So there you go. So now I have duplicates across the mirror plane. So rather than it being symmetrical unto itself, it's symmetrical on opposite sides. So I select OK. Now I can edit this form here, play around here. So if I want to shrink these eyes, again, make them slightly less bug-eyed, select my faces. I can shrink one down and you see how both sides react the same. So that's just two different ways you can work, unhide stuff. And so now, had I not made the eyes of the head body itself, I could then, after we leave, join, or I can open up those holes again, delete some faces off of the side of the head, and then either bridge the eyeball bodies onto the head, or I can merge them. There's a bunch of different ways you can go about it. But let me hide that. Tell you what, let me actually label these eyes, head, and actually, well, yeah, body. There we go. Let's try to make some sense out of what I'm doing here. All right. So cool. We got a really basic and mildly unsettling duck. All right. Head made. So from here, I need to get these two together so it's not just a, decapitated duck head floating above its own body. So to do that, I do want to, again, use the bridge tool. Now, if you remember from the previous project, you had to have two exposed faces, or you had to have two exposed edges. So I need to go about and delete these faces. Simple. Select there, delete that one. You can see how it automatically shifted the form around. Let's select these faces, delete those. Now I am going to have to edit these because bridge is limited, but I actually really quite like the shape of that head. So let's double click the whole head, move, and I just want to move it up a little bit. So I'm really leaving the original design alone, or I'm leaving the original design. You can freeform it. That's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. I didn't need to get out of that. So let me get back in here. What I want to do here is I need to shrink this opening. So double click on the rim there. I'm going to use the scale tool, shrink that a bit. There we go. And let's move it forward a little bit too, so it kind of aligns a little bit. Ultimately, like I said, the bridge tool is limited. You do have to have the edges. A couple of things with this. You do have to have the edges somewhat match, and I don't mean in shape. I mean in number of adjoining faces. So what that means is there's 1, 2, potentially 3, 4. On the head, 1, 2, 3. Let's see how this works. We might have to make some subdivisions or some deletions. So select OK, go to modify, bridge. Select the first side, double click this time, because I'm not just selecting just a little bit of an edge. I want the entire edge. Doesn't matter if you select the top or the bottom first, same diff. Side 2, now I want the underside of the head. Double click, there we are. Now it's going to give you some alignment here, showing you these vertices, or showing you these, alignment directions. For this time, just ignore that. Let's try a preview. Ooh, that's doing some weird stuff up top, but we don't need to worry about that. What it's showing us, if we went to utilities, display mode, and put it either in box view, simplified view, or combined, you can see it's just showing me the more cubic view of this. So, okay, great. That's fine. Problem is it already abridged that, which technically that's fine. Let me just Control Z. I don't want that to happen just yet. And also because those are two separate bodies. There we go. Let's show them both that. So that just helps me see this a little more simply. Now it did work. Great. So let's go back to bridge. This time I'll select the top first. Sometimes it is a little more difficult to grab edges in this view. So again, you work how you prefer to. Side 2, I'm going to double click that edge there. Now, the reason I went back is because the number of faces that is added in here, I don't need that level of detail. Let's drop it back to 1. So you see how those lines went away, those edges went away. I just need one set of faces. Keep it simple. If you want it creased, leave it creased. In this case, not so much. Doesn't look like it's changing anything. Cool. Select OK. All right. Bridged them together. Let's go back to smooth mode, and you can see it did pretty decent. Now, because the head is smaller than the opening was, still probably need to go back and do a little bit of reshaping. That's not really a big deal. Select OK. Once again, edit. Let's go by faces, and I want to select all of those. All I want to do is I just want to move this head forward again a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. Same deal. I think what I'd like to do is just move that outward. Now that did some weird stuff over here. So let's try rotating that. That flattens it a little bit better. Nice. Yeah, that's not bad. One other thing I did see was down here, there's this weird divot. So to get rid of that, let's go to select by vertex, grab just that vertex. And sometimes in 3/4 view, it's a little bit hard to see what I'm doing. So let's just go to the right view. And I'm just going to translate that up a little bit. There we are. Just trying to get rid of that divot a little bit. Don't really need to like have a point or anything like that. But there you go. Okay. That works pretty well. Not bad at all. Now the real test. Will it give me errors? Of course it does. What are my errors? Some edges or faces might be crossing. Return. Okay. So let's see what the problem is. Go to utilities, repair body. Lots of stuff. Of course, it's in that mouth that I just had to make. So let's try auto repair, see what it does. Huh. I think I just made a duck version of Sid from the Ice Age movies. That's creepy, but it fixed stuff. So I can go ahead and set OK. I can always come back, make some adjustments, finish form. We're good. All right. Now it is showing also the bodies that are just those eyes. Now it's separated them out into 2 separate eyes. So I'm just going to ignore those. Let's hide the canvas. All right. Now currently it is in automatic color display mode. So let's switch over, Control N, and it's a steel duck, a Terminator duck. Great. Yeah, that did some weird stuff around the cheeks. Might have to go back and make some edits and such. But we want to do a couple of things now. One of the things is I showed you how to flatten the bottom by deleting faces and collapsing and with a creased edge. The other way you could do that is by splitting the body. Now you're going to need something to split with. So I'm going to use a construction plane, select the XY axis plane, and I'm just going to drag this down to, about where it looks like I would like it to be flattened to. Right about there. Sure, why not? Okay. Now go to modify, split body, select the body, select the construction plane. If you can't quite get to it, you can temporarily hide the, no, now it's selected as just head. There we go. And you'll see this red line extend out past the body. Great. Select OK. Now it added an additional body here. I hate that it keeps the original as like a little chunk, but whatever. Hide that. Now I have a flat bottom to it. So that's a pretty easy way of going about it. Now it looks like the crease that I extended outward looks like it creased in the back there. So don't know that I like that, but that's something I can go back and edit. But this is also where you can start going around and just using more of your standard tools. So like, all right, that's a flat bottom, but I don't like that it's a sharp edge. Go to fillet, select that bottom edge, your standard, I don't know, 5. There you go. Cool, I can do that. This is also where you can start to do things like if I had left this bill flat, I could do things like cut an entire shape out to make this bill a little bit sharper. So like go to sketch on the XZ plane. There we go. And I'm just going to draw a shape that's roughly a triangle to there. All right. From here, I can do the same thing and split body. So modify, split body. This time I'm going to use that sketch. Oh, right. It can't be a complete sketch. Oop. Sorry. Let me go back, edit sketch. I don't need it to be that. I mean, honestly, you could just use extrude and cut too. So let's delete that part. Select OK. So now when I go to split body, select the body again, that splitting tool, just that V, it's a gigantic. Deselect the checkbox that says extend splitting tools. It just makes them large as it thinks it needs. But do that. Now, once again, I've got these other chunks, but I could remove those. Now, if I had wanted to make a open mouth like that, now I'd have a really sharp open mouth. I could do the same thing if that were a closed sketch. So let's go back to edit sketch. And had I done this first time with a completed closed sketch, from there, what I could have done is done an extrude. Let's do symmetric, both sides, and a cut. And same thing. So 2 different ways of getting the same feature out of that if you wanted to cut things away. So there's plenty of different things you can do to this to actually alter the shapes. Next class, I'm going to show you how to start actually making more directed cuts and features onto the sides itself with additional sketches and projecting those sketches onto a wrapped body like this with this. But one other thing I want to show you here, let's save. Done. Is how to apply appearances, not just by body. So bring up the appearance tool. Let's see what we have here. Paint. Glossy. Heck yeah, metallic flake. I want a metal flake duck because it's awesome. Drag that over. Come on. What's going on here? Oh, it's not. Yeah. Make sure that, I don't know why it doesn't automatically just download these, because it's not like it costs anything or anything else. It just isn't there. All right. They weren't downloaded yet. Now I can drag it over. Bam, metallic duck. That is sweet. But if you look at the top of the toolbox, that is by bodies and components. If you go select the by faces, this is where you can change out and obviously apply by faces. So you can click and drag to individual faces, or what you can do is you can select all of those faces, drag that same, and now it does it to all of them. And let's see here if we can get I don't know. I just wanted to see what else they had. Metal, gold, glass, leather, leather eyes. Sure, flat black, there we go. If I select just those individual faces there. Now drag over that by all of them, and it throws the same on all of them. Great. Now you still have to do it to the other side because right now it's only on one. Now right now I don't have this or I can do this to the eye, but if I try to do that to the bill, it's going to select the whole top. This is where those same sketches come in handy. So let's go and edit that sketch. But what I want is I want something that will divide the bill, but I don't necessarily want to cut it off. So let's create a fit point spline. Come on. This has happened to me a few times that for some reason there's some kind of like vertical delineation in the sketch where it just won't let my cursor go past it, or it was for some reason updating. Yeah, see, it keeps getting caught. I don't know what the problem there is. It's not the first time that's happened. All right, fine. Let's just simplify this. I don't know why it's doing that. Geez. All right, maybe it's just the appearance. Let me switch it back over to standard mode. There we go. Maybe it was the appearance. It was having trouble rendering the appearances. Still bogging down. That's very strange. All right, there we go. Out and about. Do another one. Sure. About like that. Now I do not have to close this sketch. Select the finish. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify and I'm going to split face. I'm not going to create new bodies. I'm just going to create basically new edges. This is a different way of creating edges after you've exited the form editing or the form workspace. So it's a little bit easier way of creating defined edges. You can still do it in the form space, but this way I'm just doing it for this case. So select faces to split. Now you do have to select the individual's faces, or you can just double click or select the whole dang thing. But in this case, I want all of those. Also that one. Okay. Splitting tool is that sketch. Now you see once again, extending splitting tool, it's going all the way out, just like the before, but now all it did was just draw some lines there. So now it just split those faces into or across that drawn line. So now when I go back, shift in, bring up the appearances again. Now I can add, again, by faces. Now I can add stuff individually. Now, because I made these cheeks and everything the way I did, it's going to be a real pain to grab all of this stuff. Might have to deselect a bunch of stuff. Come on. Ugh. Yeah, this might be more trouble than it was worth. Come on. Man, that is not liking my selections. All right. There we go. Just nightmare red. It's probably all the reflective surfaces that's giving it trouble. Just when you go to do this, double check that you have in fact selected by faces. See what just happened? When I finished that, it went right back to my bodies. If I went and applied this, it's going to do it to the whole thing. Make sure you got it by faces. Mainly if you're having to tediously select a whole bunch of little things and you end up accidentally basically undoing all of it, it's mildly frustrating. All right, there you go. Duck has one. Yep. Why not have some fun with it? All right, there you go. So that's how you can use the split faces tool to create that. Now, obviously, if I change my display mode to just shaded, you're not seeing all the edges. It's less creepy or more. I'm not really sure. Anyway.
Those eyes are sharp people.
Exactly. Just nothing going on in there, which is probably better for inanimate objects, or it's more creepy. Either way. So that's a rundown of a very basic way of going about these. Like I said, next time I want to show you how to apply those same tools of splitting faces and such like that to create features like the wings and additional stuff like that, and maybe slightly less soulless beady eyes staring into you. Awesome. So on that note, good luck with it and have fun.